Thinking about packing up your life and moving to a new state? Yeah, you, the one with the map full of pushpins. If you just shouted, "Yes!" at your screen, this video is for you. We're diving into the top 15 states everyone's eyeing, based on search trends, not just vibes. Dreaming is fun, but research makes it real. We'll cover crime rates, job markets, real estate, and of course taxes. Stick around for all the details. First up, we're heading straight to Big Sky Country, Montana. Imagine waking up to mountain views that stretch on forever, where your closest neighbor is, well, pretty darn far away, and the only traffic jam you'll encounter involves a herd of cattle. Sounds idyllic, right? Well, for a lot of you, it's not just a dream, it's a goal. Montana's been seeing a surge in popularity, and it's not hard to see why. We're talking median home prices around $450,000, which, compared to those coastal cities, feels like a steal. Plus, with remote work becoming the new norm, who needs to be crammed in a tiny apartment when you can have acres of land? But it's not just about the scenery and the space. Montana's job market is quietly growing, especially in fields like tourism, agriculture, and outdoor recreation. Think park rangers, ski instructors, craft brewers, jobs that let you breathe in that fresh mountain air. First up, we're heading straight to Big Sky Country, Montana. Imagine waking up to mountain views that stretch on forever, where your closest neighbor is, well, pretty darn far away, and the only traffic jam you'll encounter involves a herd of cattle. Sounds idyllic, right? Well, for a lot of you, it's not just a dream, it's a goal. Montana's been seeing a surge in popularity, and it's not hard to see why. Median home price is around $450,000, which, compared to coastal cities, feels like a steal. With remote work, who needs a tiny apartment when you can have acres of land? Alright, let's mosey on down to the Lone Star State, Texas. Now you might have heard whispers that the Texas migration has slowed down. Don't let that fool you. Texas is like that friend who walks into a room and instantly owns it. It's still a powerhouse. Why? Two words: affordability and opportunity. While home prices have been on a bit of a roller coaster ride lately, you can still snag a place for around $300,000 on average, which is music to a lot of ears, especially with no state income tax eating into your hard-earned cash. And the job market? Well, it's hotter than a bowl of chili on a summer day. Next up, we're heading to a state that often gets overshadowed by its louder neighbors, but trust me, it deserves your attention. We're talking about North Carolina, the state that's basically a choose-your-own adventure novel come to life. Want stunning mountain views? Check out the Blue Ridge Mountains, dreaming of salty air and sandy beaches? The Outer Banks are calling your name. Craving craft beer? Well, North Carolina has more breweries than you can shake a stick at. But it's not all about the scenery. North Carolina's economy is quietly crushing it, especially in sectors like tech, biotech, and finance. Chapter 4, Colorado Mountain High, Wallet Low? Alright, adventurers, this one's for you. We're talking about Colorado, the state that's basically synonymous with epic mountain ranges, craft breweries on every corner, and a lifestyle that revolves around being outdoors. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Housing ain't cheap here. We're talking median home prices around $550,000, which can make even the most seasoned house hunter sweat a little. But for many, it's worth it for the access to world-class skiing, hiking trails that seem to go on forever, and a community that's as welcoming as a warm cup of coffee on a snowy morning. And the job market? It's more than just ski instructors and park rangers. Chapter 5, Nevada Beyond the Vegas Strip. Alright, let's head to the Silver State, Nevada. Now when you hear Nevada, your mind probably jumps straight to the bright lights and casinos of Las Vegas. And hey, no judgment here, Vegas is definitely an experience. But Nevada is so much more than just the Strip. We're talking about a state with wide open spaces, stunning desert landscapes, and a surprisingly affordable cost of living. In fact, you can snag a house for just over $400,000 on average, which is a whole lot cheaper than some of its West Coast neighbors. Plus, with no state income tax, you get to keep more of your hard-earned cash. Wyoming, the cowboy state, goes high-tech? We're heading to Wyoming, the least populated state in the lower 48. If you crave wide-open spaces and a slower pace, Wyoming's your jam. Drive for hours and see only a handful of cars. The stars are so bright, city lights are a distant memory. Find peace and quiet that's hard to come by. Wyoming's incredibly affordable. Median home prices around $350,000. No state income tax. More money in your pocket. Oklahoma, affordable living, big opportunities. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to talk about a state that's often overlooked but seriously underrated. Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma might not be the first place that comes to mind when you think of trendy states to move to, but trust me, it's worth a second look. First things first, affordability. We're talking median home prices around $200,000, which is practically unheard of in today's market. That means you can finally stop dreaming about owning a home and actually make it happen. Chapter 8, Vermont, Green Mountains, Green Living. Alright, let's head to a state that's as charming as a Norman Rockwell painting. Vermont. We're talking rolling hills, quaint towns, and a pace of life that's so relaxed, you'll forget what stress even feels like. Now, Vermont's not cheap. Median home prices are hovering around $400,000, but for that price, you get a slice of paradise. Think cozy winters by the fireplace, fresh maple syrup on tap, and a community that feels more like family than neighbors. And the job market? It's more diverse than you might think. Chapter 9, Georgia, Peaches, Hollywood, and Tech. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to talk about a state that's got it all. Georgia. We're talking southern charm, big city excitement, and a cost of living that won't break the bank. First things first, the housing market. Now, Georgia's been getting a lot of attention lately, which has driven up prices in some areas. But you can still find a place for a reasonable price, especially compared to those coastal cities. We're talking median home prices around $325,000, which is pretty darn good considering all that Georgia has to offer. And speaking of what Georgia has to offer, let's talk about the job market. Chapter 10, South Carolina, Beaches, History, and Affordability. Alright, beach bums and history buffs, this one's for you. We're talking about South Carolina, a state that's got it all: stunning coastline, charming cities steeped in history, and a cost of living that's surprisingly affordable. Let's start with the housing market. Now, South Carolina's been getting a lot of attention lately, but it's still possible to find a place for a reasonable price, especially compared to some of its neighbors. We're talking median home prices around $300,000, which means you can finally have that beach house you've always dreamed of. And the job market? It's more diverse than you might think. Chapter 11, Idaho, from potatoes to tech hub. Alright folks, get ready to be surprised because we're about to talk about a state that's quickly becoming the new frontier for adventure seekers and opportunity hunters alike, Idaho. Now you might be thinking, Idaho? Isn't that just potatoes and farmland? Well, get ready to have your mind blown because Idaho's going through a major transformation, and it's not just about the spuds anymore. First things first, the scenery. We're talking breathtaking mountain ranges, pristine lakes, and wide open spaces that'll make you feel like you've stepped into a postcard. And the best part, you can actually afford to live here. Median home prices are around $450,000, which is a steal compared to some of its West Coast neighbors. Chapter 12, Maine, lobster rolls and lighthouses. Alright, let's head to a state that's as picturesque as a postcard and as charming as a lobsterman's accent. Maine. We're talking rugged coastline, quaint fishing villages, and a pace of life that's so laid back, you'll forget what stress even feels like. Now, Maine's not exactly cheap. Median home prices are around $400,000, but for that price, you get a slice of New England paradise. Think cozy winters by the fireplace, fresh seafood on every corner, and a community that's as welcoming as a warm cup of chowder on a chilly day. And the job market? It's more diverse than you might think. Alright, sunseekers and desert lovers, this one's for you. We're talking about Arizona, a state that's got it all year-round sunshine, stunning desert landscapes, and a cost of living that's surprisingly affordable. Let's start with the housing market. Now, Arizona's been getting a lot of attention lately, but it's still possible to find a place for a reasonable price, especially compared to some of its West Coast neighbors. We're talking median home prices around $425,000. Which means you can finally have that backyard oasis you've always dreamed of. And the job market? It's hotter than a summer day in Phoenix thanks to industries like tech, healthcare, and aerospace. Hold on to your cowboy hats, folks, because we're about to talk about a state that's got rhythm, soul, and a whole lot of heart, Tennessee. We're talking rolling hills, vibrant cities, and a cost of living that's surprisingly affordable. Let's start with the housing market. Now, Tennessee's been getting a lot of attention lately, but it's still possible to find a place for a reasonable price, especially compared to some of its neighbors. We're talking median home prices around $315,000, which means you can finally have that Music City dream home you've always wanted. And the job market? It's hotter than a plate of hot chicken, thanks to industries like healthcare, music and entertainment, and manufacturing. Alright folks, we've reached our final destination, the Sunshine State, Florida. Now, Florida needs no introduction. It's been a popular destination for decades, and for good reason. We're talking beaches, sunshine, no state income tax, what's not to love? Now, Florida's housing market has been on a bit of a roller coaster ride lately, but it's still possible to find a place for a reasonable price, depending on where you're looking. We're talking median home prices around $380,000, which might sound steep, but hey, you're paying for paradise. And the job market? It's hotter than a day at Disney World, thanks to industries like tourism, healthcare, and aerospace. So, there you have it folks, the top 15 states that are primed and ready for you to call home. From the mountains of Montana to the beaches of Florida, there's a perfect spot out there for everyone. Remember, choosing the right state to move to is a big decision. It's not just about finding a cool place to live, it's about finding a place that aligns with your values, your lifestyle, and your dreams for the future. Now go out there and make your move.